Buongiorno e benvenuti alla conferenza CEDA sul futuro del... You look a bit surprised. How many of you speak Italian? Only one. I'll try to do this in English then. Before I start, I would like to have a little poll. How many farmers do you have in the audience? Right. My focus will be on agriculture and livestock more specifically, although probably the real farmers one are very few here. So some of you knows well than what we do. I am a third generation farmer. My family originated in Italy. This photo shows my father in the early 60s loading a brown Swiss cattle on a train bound for the south of Italy, and that's how my father started trading livestock. Behind that mountain there is the Swiss border, so quite a long distance from where we are now. We've been active in Western Australia for almost 35 years, and we are active in livestock export, which is our main activity, in shipping, wool, abattoirs, cropping, breeding, genetics, machinery distribution, and some other smaller business. And our family has invested in Australian agriculture over $300 million in the last 30 years. That is what is Wella today. We are a primary producer, mainly in the Wheatbelt. We produce grains and livestock. We are then one of the largest, if not the largest, exporter of livestock, both sheep and cattle, and within cattle, both beef and dairy cattle, all over the world. And also we are shipper in our own right because we own our own livestock carriers. And more recently, we have entered the processing distribution business. We bought an abattoir in WA, Beaufort River Meats. We have an abattoir in the Philippines, where we process Australian cattle that we finish in our field there. And we are now developing similar projects in China and other parts. We employ about 200 people in Australia, and mainly in rural jobs, obviously, and most of them are actually in the Wheatbelt. Our workforce is much bigger because we have also investment abroad, so we employ a lot of people globally. So we are foreign investors. It's a topic that is quite debated in the last times here. Although I now, maybe my accent doesn't really show, but I live in Perth for a long time, and I'm growing my 3 children as little Aussies. A little bit naughty, but I don't think that is the place where they've been growing. It's more about genetics, probably. Anyway, it's good time for the industry and for this region, although we had some very tough time. We have recently put an advertisement on the rural press that highlights the number that we have done. There's means that Weller has exported 400,000 cattle and 500,000 sheep, in the last 12 months. These are figures that to me are quite spectacular, not only because it means that Weller is putting into rural Australia about $1.3 million every single day of the year, but also because all these animals has gone through a supply chain. So that means that we can control their welfare from when we buy them from the paddock until when they are slaughtered in the receiving country, and that is a big achievement. Every farmer knows animal welfare has always been important, and more so it is now, and even more will be in the future. It's interesting, this sentence I found on an old book, which is a hint to owners forwarding stock to the market. That was written almost 100 years ago. Avoid all unnecessary fuss, keep your temper, and treat the animal you are working with as if you were friends of yours. It's 100 years old, but I think is still very valid, and no matter if you're bringing 10 cattle or 400,000 cattle to the matter, that is a motto that you need to follow. And it's not only in Australia. This is a photo is a very recent initiative that we've done in Vietnam. We have donated 100 of these stunners, which is a standard stunner used in Australian abattoirs, to abattoirs that are not killing Australian animal in Vietnam. So these stunner will be used on Cambodian, on Vietnamese and Thai animals, so that we improve the welfare of the animal, not only the Australian animal, every animal, because at the end of the day, for us, they're all the same. So it's a little bit of investment that we need to do in educating our market, and that is very relevant to the quality of the job and the amount of, let's say, or the quality and the price that we can get for our goods. We are also a little bit of a global player, although we are headquartered in Fremantle. We got a facility in South America where we export cattle from Brazil to Venezuela to the Middle East. We got an office in the United States where we export dairy cattle. New Zealand, quite active in dairy business as well. And as you can see, the dark blue are all our markets, so really a global exposure. And that's maybe another way to say how can agricultural enterprises in Australia improve their margins, is to look abroad for agricultural opportunity. There is plenty also near us, in Indonesia, in the Philippines, and in China, where we can make a difference through our technology, our know-how, and capitalize on those things. So in terms of livestock, I think that the producer should see Wellard and the other exporter a little bit of a bridge between their product and the market. And obviously it's a tall bridge, and it's actually a way to bring your product to the market and to give to the producer opportunities that otherwise they would not have if they look only at the local market. You might remember the couple of crises we had, the Indonesian crisis, the Bahraini ban. That's what happened to the price of sheep. So it's a massive important market, especially for the farmer in the Wheatbelt. They are heavily dependent on sheep export for their livelihood. We see now a different trend on the livestock export, and I know, obviously the politicians will tell that it's their good job that has made this improvement, and I think that the government has done really a great thing for our industry because the numbers prove it. But we also do our part, and after all, for the producer, it's not really important who is the one that makes things better, as long as they can get more money for their livestock and the wool, and that is all that is important to make them viable and sustainable. Let's talk a little bit about productivity, which has been a common theme before, and efficiency. Now, we all hear about people saying that we need to double production to feed Asia, and that it's easy to say that foreign investment will make this happen. I think we need to be a bit cautious here, and I probably join your opinion that the dining boom is very different from the mining boom. I also don't see that we necessarily need to double our production, because doubling production puts stress on the land, puts stress on the roads, more pollution, and other setbacks. So it's probably more important that the efficiency goes into maybe doubling the income without necessarily doubling the production. So if you see what happened recently, with the increase of the livestock export, we've seen price of cattle going from $1.3 to $2, and price of sheep going from $50 to $100. So that is a great way to improve your productivity and your return without really doing any revolution. And also, we need to be conscious that producing anything in Australia or doing business in Australia is very expensive. Western Australia more than other states. So it's obviously a blessing for us living in this country, but for people that has to compete in international markets, sometimes it's quite a strong challenge. I recently went to Italy. I go very often, obviously, but recently I visited some of the abattoirs there to see how the technology has evolved. It is amazing how this facility specifically is owned by the Colomberetto family. They can process one animal from coming to the premises to go out fully cut up, vacuum packed and boxed for €30 per head. That is about $45 Australian. And they need only 60 people to process 1,000 animals per day, every animal. In Australia, typically this number will treble or more. So at the end of the day, we are selling the meat in the same place where these guys are selling it. So it's a challenge for us as well to cope with this high cost. And then there is obviously the sort of problem of the infrastructure. If we were to double production today, I think that we will not be able to actually take them to the port and ship them efficiently, because we lack port space, road, rails. Maybe for grain it's a bit better, but for other products is a big challenge. Sometimes we have to wait 1 week or 10 days to get a berth with one of our livestock carrier in port like Fremantle or Townsville or Darwin. So the cost associated with that weight with the animal in the pre-export depot, the demurrage of ship, we need to price that risk in, and somehow we have to pass it on to the producer, so that is obviously reducing their ability to make a better price for that. Now the government says we are on a tight budget, we can't spend money on infrastructure just yet. The industry might spend money. Red tape is another big problem for us to develop facilities. So I don't know what the solution is, but it's something that before we think about doubling our production, we should be sure that once we got all that stuff, we are able to export it. Anyways, good time for the industry. We have seen some of the richest people in Australia and some of the biggest funds in the world investing in agriculture, and this is very positive. The feeling is a little bit like if you're playing in a small town football team in the Wheatbelt, and all of a sudden you got one of the big champions from the FLL come and play with you. Oh, that's obviously great. They will sort things out. They will not only bring us investment money, but they will bring us talent, intelligence, relationship, and tactics. So that is a very positive thing. It will be a game-changing in many respects, and I think it's very positive. There is a little story that I can tell you about this, because one day my town in Italy, in Brescia, came to play one of the super champions of soccer. So the owner of the team organized a little amateur game, and he was invited to play. 5 minutes into the game, unfortunately, I was playing on the other side. We were 6 goals down because he was too strong. So we told them, no, that's not fair. You need to kick some people out because it's too strong. So they kicked 3 out, 8 against 11. 5 minutes after, again, 5 more goals down. So they say, no, that's still not fair, He's too strong, so kick someone else out. So we keep on going like this until this poor guy was playing on his own with the goalkeeper. At that point, we were almost balanced, but they won, but they didn't have any fun. So it's probably better that this doesn't happen in our sector. Now, a little bit more on foreign investor, foreign investment from foreign investors. Obviously, we got people that say that foreign investment is necessary, and I agree with that, especially in the Wheatbelt and in other rural areas in Australia. Some others say we don't want to lose sovereignty on our land. Both positions probably got some right and wrong. My opinion is that it's not really important if the investor is Australian or foreign. What we need is quality investor. We need investor that has aligned interest with our nation, that wants to produce profit in Australia through technological improvement, consolidation, training, and education. If that is what they are doing, I don't think their nationality is a big problem, and is not also the amount of money that can invest. So the scrutiny should be more on the business plan, on the integrity, and what they want to do with the investment. Probably we don't need investors that look at us for a cheap source of food for their country or for their people, but somebody that's really interested in developing a genuine and profitable business in Australia. Consolidation. We saw before the number of farmers in Australia. The rural production is still very fragmented. That is another opportunity for the Wheatbelt and for the rural agribusiness in general in Australia. The opportunity there are to make acquisition, to maybe go more into co-op, but we are working on some project that we try to make to create an enterprise that will be big and strong enough to attract not only investment but also talent, young people that feel like working in the rural sector and be part of the new trend. We are working on a model, and the model is mainly to align the production in the Wheatbelt and everywhere else in Australia with what our customers need, so that we can have a constant flow of information, a constant flow of scheduling, a constant flow of requirement, and the farmer knows that they are producing something that for the next 2, 3, or 4 years has a marketplace. Their investment will be safer, and obviously in doing that, we will add for them an upside in the downstream profit. So we hope that we can roll out something soon, and that will be, in my opinion, a very good improvement for the return of farms. Thank you.